Rob, without further ado, let's dive in. If you want to give kind of like a quick intro on who you are and then kind of like how we got started working together.
Yeah, so I'm Rob Hill. I I'm trying to remember how long ago it was that we started working together. It
Yep,
was
2 years
yeah, something like
over.
that. And so we had I had been gaining some weight over the course of several years. Honestly, it was like a decade or so that well, not a decade. It was maybe more like 3 to 5 years, right? Half a decade that I'd been putting on some weight, and I was trying to be mindful about the weight that I was putting on, but I was um, definitely not able I was able to stop its progression, but I wasn't able to start going back the other direction with it. So that was about the time that Hannah had been working um, with you, and so we decided to have me sign on too. And it was kind of the beginning of our adventure there, where I was, 165 or 100 something, 170 pounds, something like that. Um, and my diet sucked. It still kind of sucks, but at least I'm mindful about it.
Yeah, yeah.
and and but yeah, it was a lot of reduced activity and a lot of just kind of um, not really taking care of myself at all. So
Yeah. Yeah, and you were one of my like first-ish clients when I decided to kind of branch out and start the business. And so we've been together for 2.5-ish years. And yeah, I definitely remember that to where you were you kind of like stopped the bleeding, right? Which is
yeah,
good, but you also wanted to kind of start progressing downward. And so, do you remember way back when we first started working together, what kind of a program looked like?
yeah, we eased into it. We were talking about movement, just low barrier to entry. That was kind of like the big term. Right? It was low barrier to entry. Do some habit building, and we were throwing some body weight exercise. Not really necessarily like a workout per se, but just get kind of to an area where we were moving, and that I was being at that point a little more mindful. I think we started talking about like how introducing a larger portion of protein throughout the day for each meal was going to help with some progression in the direction that I wanted to go. So yeah, we started out pretty easy. It was we were using the app. The app has the ability to do workouts. It'll have or even just exercises, stretches, things like that. That is where we started is stretches and just some body weight movements. From there, we started to see the weight started coming down, kind of at a pretty good pace, a healthy pace, I guess is how we should put it, right? That wasn't too fast, wasn't too slow, and over the course of the 2-ish years that we've been working together, we were able to get my weight trending in the right direction, um, and we talked a lot about how weight wasn't the only metric that we wanted to use, right? We wanted to talk about things like strength or just overall how I was feeling. And so I definitely noticed that my mood improved over the course of that process, that my overall like fitness level or like ready to just kind of like get out and do some things started getting a little better. I started getting some hikes in with some friends, and then hit kind of the secondary roadblock of the motion that was my knee. Kind of needs some PT to bring that back to full function because I was experiencing a lot of pain in hiking. So we steered away from the hiking and started talking about a lot more deliberate movement and sort of like main muscle group movement, get those strengthened before starting to stress any of like the supporting muscles. So we steered in that direction for the body movement workouts, and yeah, that was. I mean, my knee is still a bit of a problem, and I think that's kind of the biggest hurdle that I need to conquer at this point. But um, I mean, aside from that, the weight trended off. I think um, last weigh-in that I remember doing was like 145 pounds, which 20 pounds over 2 years is pretty darn good.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and we were, like you said, at a healthy rate, not without its roadblocks. So we had some hurdles that we had to overcome that we'll kind of talk about. And I remember when we were first kind of starting, but a little bit into it, where we were transitioning to doing more strength training. One of the goals was just spend like 10 minutes in the workout room. Not even like doing specific workouts, but just spend time in there. And that was largely to build that habit of getting in there, spending that time, whether it's doing like, I think we were talking about just doing some like deep breathing, or if you just chill in there for a little bit, but at least you're kind of planting the seed of, at this particular time or after work, I'm going in there and I'm spending this time. And that kind of evolved to a little bit more intense workouts.
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely think that's a huge change for me is getting that deliberate um, action of carving out time for my health. It was something that I just didn't spend any time day to day thinking about, and so that was low barrier to entry, really easy step to get into. Just plot that time in your day that you're going to be in the gym. It doesn't matter if you're not working out, you're planning on you're going to be in there. And then as things kind of developed, it was a matter of, all right, well, since you're going to be in here,
Right,
might as
might as well do
well
something.
grab some dumbbells, make some things happen.
Yeah, yeah. And then when things kind of got different, we'll say, with like different job change and then the addition to the family with baby Darcy, we switched a little bit to a more laissez-faire approach. I think would be a good answer to that, where it wasn't so much spend 10 minutes in the gym, it was just do 15 minutes of activity throughout the day, dealer's choice, and whatever that was. And with that and the addition of like alarms and like the ping notification you get from the app, that helps kind of get that daily movement and remind you to get that daily movement. Because I know out of sight, out of mind was kind of a big thing for you. And so we tried to do what we could to make it so it happened at some point throughout the day.
Yeah, and again, low barrier to entry is the kind of thing that we started out at a movement goal that was pretty much kind of like you're already like, are you living and breathing? Then you're already
Yeah.
doing this every day. Like, let's just check off the box, get that app used in there, and that the app is definitely very powerful in the sense that it sort of brings sort of a gamification to the whole process, in addition to the fact that you feel rewarded for doing the things that you are wanting to do anyways, and by doing them you get to check those boxes and get the little endorphin rush for getting things checked off for the day. And interacting with the app was the honestly it's one of the stronger tools for this whole process, is being able to meet with you on a regular basis to understand what you're doing and make sure that what you're doing is healthy, that it's working with the strength that you have, with the mobility that you have, and then just keeping that accountability of, hey, well, the app's going to keep reminding you, like, hey, did you do your movement for the day? Hey, did you get your 10 grams or 20 grams of protein? Just bare minimum type of entry level stuff. And that definitely is it's a strong tool. It makes it very easy to get on board with. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate that because I really like that app. It's not exactly my app, but I do have it custom branded. But I like it because it is like that one-stop shop, with the exception of Zoom. Everything's on there between like the habits, the workouts, tracking calories, all of that. And so I do like it because it does add that reward response of, like you said, checking those boxes, you're getting that reward, but then also everything's at your fingertips. So there's no guesswork, right?
yeah,
Yeah. And when you mentioned nutrition a few times, I think a big thing that you and I focused on was like, in a sense, relationship with food, to where A, we need to remember to eat, B, and we need to set aside like particular specific times to eat, and make sure that we're having protein sources rather than waiting till the end of the day and then just kind of like binge eating on higher calorie foods.
Yeah, like the tendency to skip breakfast. It wasn't even a tendency. It's basically a habit of mine. This is that I skip the breakfast, and it's too bad because that's a really easy, like, it is very common to pack your breakfast with protein. Eggs and sausage, bacon, and throw all these things together, and then maybe there's some veggies or something and some toast, right? But for the most part, it's a heavier protein type of meal. And by skipping that, I was really shortchanging myself. So we were running at a deficit the rest of the day, trying to throw in protein bars or beef jerky or meat sticks or whatever we could find to try and get that protein goal up, because of the fact that it gives you that fullness that by the end of the day you're not like, well, I'm still hungry and there's a whole bag of sour cream and onion chips in the cabinet, so I guess that's toast.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah, and you were experimenting with protein chips as well, right?
yeah, we tried the
Was
protein chips, and we tried the there was something. Well, I think it was just the chips, right? We checked out the chips, and oh, and then there were some higher protein bar, uh, you know, options that we were looking into that were something like 20 grams of protein per bar or close to that, and it was a significant source that was worth pulling in and getting those. So between the chips and those, it was the snacks were available. It was really just on me to eat them, and that's kind of where our system fell apart. So
Well, I know not too long ago, actually, you came up with the idea of having like seven different high protein options to pick and choose from, so that way you don't get overly sick of like one particular food choice, like over sick of the chips, which I think was kind of an issue, or the protein bars, or the meat sticks. It's like you have all of these different choices with different flavors to pick and choose, and I feel like that was pretty helpful.
yeah, with variety being the spice of life, that is definitely something you want to lean on when you're trying to keep things interesting for your diet and maintain protein goals for the purpose of you know sure, it's great to help if you're doing like high strength workout type activities, but just for quelling hunger, protein does a great
Hmm.
job at that. And so um, I think it was on me, and it was super important to go and create a variety of options that maybe this doesn't sound good because you had it yesterday, but hey, there's some beef jerky in the cabinet still, and you can just grab a handful of that and you'll be pretty good for a small portion of protein for whatever serving or snack you're working on. So
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a big thing too, having the food readily available. Because if you don't have a high protein source and you do have that bag of sour cream and onion chips readily available, that's what's going to get eaten, right?
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and not too terribly long ago, what, 5, 6 months ago, you guys both had an addition to the family.
Yeah, you want to jump back in here?
now that that addition is asleep.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Good to hear. And um, well, we had been working together. The three of us have been working together long prior to that. And so, Hannah, I guess you can kind of jump in here, seeing how you're the one that made the baby. Um, what did we
Grooming.
do to prep for the baby, like during like your whole entire pregnancy, and then what did we do, I guess, um, after Darcy was born?
Yeah, no. So my goal with you was a little different than Rob's because my goal was more doing strength training and stamina and endurance and things. Because I've done some stuff before, but never very coordinated. And I've always enjoyed things like running, but again, I kind of burned out on it and needed something a little bit more dynamic. And so you and I were working on a lot of strength training, using weights, increasing some capacity. And so going into pregnancy, having a really good baseline of core strength and stamina and cardio ability was really helpful because pregnancy can really take it out of you. And so I think having that nice baseline helped me stay more mobile while I was pregnant. And then we also worked together to modify workouts to accommodate my capacity as it changed, center of gravity changing, things like that. And so I think that really helped me feel better throughout pregnancy. And I was very comfortable up until like the very end of third trimester, which I take as a very uh, lucky situation. But I think also just taking care of staying moving made a big difference, both physically and mental health wise, because you'll go a little stir crazy. And then I think after it also helped because I think having that good baseline, staying as mobile as I could while pregnant, helped me recover and feel better sooner. And so I'm still obviously in the long term of healing, still having some healing, but I feel fantastic. Haven't really had any issues, and I'm, I think, 2 weeks out from officially being cleared to run again.
Nice.
And that is a fantastic news for me. And I'm doing weight training again already, or strength training again to prep for that. And so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I know, obviously, you being very active prior to getting pregnant did lay that strong foundation, like you were talking about. And I noticed that every time you'd come back, every time we hop on a call or whatever, and you had like an appointment, you're like, yeah, pretty much everything's textbook. I'm gaining the exact amount of weight that I should be, and everything's doing well. And I think that's largely because not only did you have that base strength from prior to being pregnant, but you also stayed active while pregnant. And I think that was a huge factor that a lot of people kind of ignore.
Yeah, because it is a big hurdle. There's a lot of symptoms that just take it out of you, especially first trimester. That exhaustion can be brutal. So no judgment on people who can't. But I'm really glad that like we could talk about it because I did deal with some of that, and we were able to keep me doing movement and habits so I didn't completely have something fall by the wayside. And so when I did start feeling better, there was already some movement in place, and then I was like, okay, well, I guess I could also throw in like a little bit of some body weight training or something, and it just, I think, helped me not lose momentum quite as extremely as it would be easy to do if I had just gone for however long I felt really ill and done nothing, because it would have been a lot harder to start without some momentum there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like Rob was saying, break it down to the lowest barrier entry as possible. And that included nutrition because we were logging calories, tracking calories, and weighing yourself pretty regularly, but then we shifted away from that because number anxiety and seeing yourself gain weight wasn't the friendliest thing. And so we shifted to
and I
more
think
like,
paying too close of attention while I was pregnant was, because of some history I have, it was not the healthiest for me. So I think focusing on more how I was feeling also kind of helped me reconnect with my own body in a healthy way of paying attention to, okay, this workout's feeling good, this one isn't feeling so good, maybe we need to tweak how I'm doing particular floor moves, and you and I would work through that of, like this one's hurting my back in a weird way, is my posture wrong or whatever, and being able to kind of troubleshoot some of that. Or like as I was getting bigger later in the pregnancy, adjusting stuff so that I was like on the floor more instead of like having to fight my center of gravity so much.
yeah, yeah, sitting upright, not laying completely back, and then just like adjusting feet placement for making room for the stomach. And like you said, your center of gravity was actually being lowered as you're growing the baby. And yeah. And then we focused a lot on, instead of like tracking calories per se, it was eat, X servings of vegetables and fruit and protein. And I feel like that was a kind of a good way to still focus on nutrition without tracking overall calories.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that was super helpful. And the protein helped me feel full, and then the fruit and veggies just helped me with some of the snacking habits, because you do get a lot hungrier. It helped me just keep in mind of like, oh yeah, I want to have like carrots and hummus instead of, again, the sour cream and onion chips. As delicious as those are, I do like carrots and hummus, and just like the quick reminder of like, oh yeah, I wanted to eat that. I'll just go grab that instead of like wandering into the kitchen going, I don't know, I just need to put something in me.
Yeah. Yeah, then you're standing at the pantry, you have the bag of chips, and you're eating the chips, and you're like, do I even want chips right now? And you're like eating 2 servings of chips before you even decide if you want to eat chips.
Far too accurate.
Yeah, no, trust me, I know. I definitely know. And then you're like, God, these are stale. I don't even like them. Well, I might as well finish the bag so I can just get rid of them.
Somebody left them from a party. They're in here. I didn't even buy them, but I should eat them. They'd go to waste.
Yeah, exactly. That's a huge mindset that I had struggled with in the past. Not so much anymore.
Yeah.
So good. When I guess throughout the entire time, because I know Rob and I working together for just over 2 years. Hannah and I worked together in the past, took like over a year off, jumped back on it about a year ago. Throughout that time, have we felt like any of the program has been overwhelming? Life, different question, but anything about the program has been overwhelming.
Program, no, because the system's really good. It definitely is one of those when life gets overwhelming. Sometimes you'd get a text from me being like, hey, so this is a real rough week. I'm just going to get these done, and then I'm getting back on it. I don't want to stop doing this, but it's going to look real barren in there this week. But I think like being able to just message you that instead of having it just makes it easier to be able to ping you at like 7 p.m. realizing like I'm just not going to get this in today. I'm going to move it, or we're just going to skip it, and I'm not going to beat myself up over it and get wound around that failure, and just keep moving forward instead of fixating on something not working. Works much better.
Yeah, yeah, and then just pick it right up the next day. Nice. How about you, Rob? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, there were plenty of times that the plan fell apart, right? And it was easy to take a moment and reassess. We would look back on what the problem, like why we couldn't get that task done, and then see if there was another method of getting the same goal completed, or if it was just too much of a lift, then we would consider how much of the term you kept using, bare ass minimums, the BAMs. Every time we could get back to the BAMs, then it was easier to keep track of what was going on, easier to stay up on what needed to be done. And then from there you build the habits off of that. So I think the biggest thing is that like you maintain some kind of momentum. Don't worry about going forward or back. Just maintain some momentum of some kind.
Yeah, yeah. At the very least, keep facing in the right direction, right? And I think a large part of that was for like we talked about bare ass minimums, but that's kind of like the floor of what we do. But the thing is that floor kind of changes. And so for a while it was probably tracking calories and then just getting some daily movement in. But then we dropped that down to just logging your body weight for especially for you, Rob, because I know that was a really good thing to get you in the app every day, get the momentum going, and then we saw a pretty good trend on the weight just because we were keeping an eye on it. What like a couple months later or a couple months prior to that, we were probably doing more like movement based stuff, and so we kind of had to downshift. I think that was when you guys were pregnant, but I also think it was around you had a big job change, wasn't it?
I'm trying to remember.
It was when they shift you back into the office more.
Oh yeah,
I think that might be right.
So the job went from fully remote to in person a little bit more. That was a job on the 7th floor, and so we were like, well, maybe take the stairs down once a day or something, and tried to incorporate some fun little bits of movement in there too. But yeah, I think that definitely was a big contributing factor to the downward trend in weight, and that momentum is kind of what gave me the gumption to try and do some of these other things that we were doing, like getting some like additional movement in, or and the daily weigh-ins were definitely kind of like the driving factor behind that. So
yeah, and then when baby Darcy was born, you guys started doing more regular walks with her. I think mainly just to kind of put her to sleep or something like that. And
it was filling mornings because we were waking up at like 6 a.m. and needed to do something, and it was the only part of the day that was cool enough to get outside with her because it was middle of summer. So
yeah, and that seemed to you guys built some good momentum with that too.
Yeah, that was fantastic, and that was really nice just to like get out and get some fresh air, get rid of the stir crazy of being stuck in the house with a newborn, and she loved it. She slept half the time, but it was fine. She still got fresh air.
Good. Well, cool. We're coming up to time here. So what would be some parting remarks for somebody who might be traveling down the same path as you guys and might be on the fence about coaching or interested in coaching? What would you say to that person?
I think the thing to remember with coaching is you get out of it what you put into it. So if you're excited and this is something you want to do, but you are kind of lost in the woods, there's a billion options out there. There's YouTube channels that will tell you anything you want to hear and give you all sorts of workouts, and that's great. Some people can self-motivate, and that is absolutely fine. But if you're somebody who's going, I'm lost in the woods, I'm overwhelmed, having a coach you can sit down and talk to and work with and kind of build up the habits is going to be more sustainable. You're probably not going to be as likely to get hurt because you're going to get some more tailored direction based off of, do you have a knee that's funny or any other things going on, to kind of keep you healthier holistically rather than just full force trying to do one thing way too intensely and then burning out or hurting yourself. So I think the benefit with coaching is that it can be a little bit more catered and kind of set you up for longer term success.
Yeah. I like to say my big part of my job is pulling the reins back.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's so easy. You get really enthusiastic at the beginning, and then you go really hard for like a week or two, and then you're fried.
Yeah.
You're like, that was fun. I'll remember that again around January 1st next year and try again.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say during like the onboarding process that I always want, especially like the first 4 weeks, I want them to feel like the workouts are like the whole program is too easy, right? Like it's not enough. Like I can do more, I can do more, I can do more. Rather than that January 1st mindset where we just do everything optimized all at once and you're like, holy crap, what did I just sign up for? Because that's very demotivating, right?
You got to build up some confidence and like self-empowerment around what you can do, and then you kind of establish a better like mentality around it. And you also learn to listen to your body when you go in a little slower, and you can like figure out when you're ready to go to the next phase a little better.
Yeah. And I think a large part of that is we often maybe overestimate what we're capable of to where it's like, oh, I did this in high school. It's like, well, that was 20 years ago. And we don't really understand where our starting point, like our point A is, because when you're going from, and this is just in general, going from like being sedentary to active, you're not used to being active, so you don't know what you're capable of. And that's what people try to bite off more than they can chew. And then that's when injuries happen. That's when you're so sore you can't even get out of bed, and then you binge eat an entire large pizza because you're just so self-defeated. And then we prevent that. So.
And you can eat that in bed, so it just makes sense.
Yeah. Why use napkins when you have a top sheet, right? Well, cool. On that note, any other final remarks, anything like that before we head out?
I think to pile on to the what would you say to someone who's maybe considering coaching but doesn't really know what, like, if they're into it, if they're not into it, where to start. I'm just going to throw out this quote that has been the best terrible motivational quote I've heard in a long time, which is, it's amazing what you can achieve if you try a little bit harder than just not at all.
That's true. That is true. I love it.
Bite-sized pieces, work your way up, start at a bare ass minimum, and then the floor moves, and you move with the floor, and everything's good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a cliche, but somebody crawling is doing laps around someone on the couch, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Well, cool, guys. I appreciate the time. I appreciate Darcy allowing us to have this time, and I guess until next time.
Yeah.
Sounds good.